Hello, my fellow patriots. This is Alex from DVP Builds. New name, new look. Well, not quite new look. Still stuck with the old me, but new direction. Going with the. Going to start doing my boat restoration and projects around the yard. Doing things to. All right. I know it's the voice. It's the ghost in the background. It's me, but it's the view is better. So there. All right, so what we're going to do today, if you notice, I got my engine well cleaned out. I pulled the engine from this boat, and I actually had to rebuild my beam for my little hoist because as soon as I put a load on that, it got too much of a bow in it, and I didn't need it coming down on my head with an engine in it. So rebuilt that, and so it took a little longer to get my engine out than I was hoping. But as you can see, I got a clean well. I've done some vacuuming, done some wiping down. I got it ready, but now the work begins. For example, we're going to be putting paint into this well today. It's a good idea if you ever have the opportunity to pull an engine from a boat. If you have to do an engine swap, it would be highly recommended that you go ahead and get in that well right in this area here, because that whole area is going to be blocked by engine. So you'll never be able to access that while the engine's in place. But it's important to put a good bilge paint into your boat because things fall in there. Oil, gas, grease, different stuff ends up in your engine well. And obviously you want to clean it up as soon as you see it. So there are two reasons to do this. One is it looks cleaner, but two is it's easier to clean because of the bilge paint. It's a hardened paint, so it creates a shell so that it can't be penetrated by gas and diesel and oil and all the other things that end up in bilges. So you can put a rag on the end of a stick and pretty much wipe it down when you spill something in there, when you change the oil, maybe it drips in there. The key is whatever ends up in here don't belong out there. None of that. Nope. So no water, none of that shit goes in the ocean. If you have a problem, you fix it in your boat and if you got oil in your bilge, it stays in your bilge until you get your boat into a location where you can clean it properly without spilling it overboard. So anyway, a little bit of a products list right here. I'm not sponsored by anybody at this point, but I did remonetize my channel because working on boats is not cheap. I mean, it's ridiculously expensive. So if I can make a few dollars on YouTube videos or YouTube advertisement, then it'll help. So also, if you guys want to kick in a tip for some of the education that you receive on here, I have my my information all in my about section. I have all my PayPal, my different links. I got my email, got my address, all that stuff. So if you wanted to drop a tip for the schooling, then you're welcome to do that. But here we go. So the first thing I got right here, Petit Easy Bilge, and this is it's pretty good stuff. Acetone. Acetone is your friend when it comes to working on boats. It's a good cleaning solution. It's the price on it's actually going up right now because of obviously the materials used to make it. Paint. Then we're going with the acetone. Next thing. See, like I said, backwards. You want a good sander, a palm sander, a belt sander, something that you can get in there. But then you also want to have one of these little sanding sponges because that thing has a round head on it. Round heads don't fit into square corners. So you want to have a little hand sponge that you can do your sanding and your 90-degree angles and things like that. So sanding is very important. Next thing here, when you get ready to paint, you want to tape off anything that you don't want paint on. I got all these wires over here. I don't particularly want to paint them. I don't want to paint the outdrive and the exhaust. So I'm going to paint basically the engine well. That is my goal today. The whole engine well, where it's going to be completely covered with engine. The rest of the stuff, when I go to pull wires and rewire this boat, do that kind of stuff, then I'll take those and undo them, pull them out of the way, and then I'll paint that part by itself. So, and at that time I'll be able to do it because the engine won't be in my way. So anyway, that's the tape. You want to make sure you can tape down what you don't want white. The other thing is, you want to get you a kind of a cheap little brush, because I'm going to tell you, you don't want to go too cheap, because if you do, you might end up with hairs in your paint, and that sucks. So the reason I say a cheap brush is because a lot of paint products that go on boats are just really, really hard to clean. The first thing we got to do here, I got to lift that float switch and get that off the floor, because that's right in the area where I'm going to be painting. The other thing is, I want to get these wires out of the way so that they don't fall back in when I get ready to do the paint. So getting things up out of the way, it's a good idea to have some zip ties. You know, zip ties can be easily cut. They can be used and then done away with, but it's a good way to trap the stuff out of your way, so that when you get in here to do the work, you're not fighting with it. But anyway, so we're gonna get started here in just a minute. This is being made. We are getting somewhere. I've just got a few places where I'm not going to be able to get it done if I don't get a hand sander in there, but it's starting to look like it's been sanded, and that's the goal. We'll just have to see how smoothly it goes. Got a little more of the orbital sander to use, and then it's back to the hand sanding for the final. Remember, the goal here is that we want a surface for the paint to stick to. We're not going for a yacht finish, because we're dealing with the bilge of a boat right here where the engine is. So it doesn't matter what the sanding looks like. You're not going for perfectly smooth, so you can put a satin finish on there, or gel coat it and polish it and all that. You're just wanting to make sure when you put $54 a quart worth of paint down that it doesn't peel up as soon as you get done. So our goal is not pretty. Our goal is adhesion. Our key is going to be cleaning out the bilge. I'm going to be using the acetone to clean that out, but I may actually shoot it with water first, even though it's going to make everything wet again. just shoot it with water to get all the dust out, because whatever I paint, I don't want somebody going, "That's you!" And then all of a sudden all the dust from around this area goes right down onto the paint. That would suck. So I'll probably spray it out and let it dry, and then come in there with the acetone, clean it up, and then tape it off and paint it. All right, I got it sanded, I got it washed down. Got to let the sun do its job for a few more minutes, let this dry out again, because don't want any water where I'm going to be putting my acetone down. But that's the next step. Get my acetone wash done, get everything cleaned up, get all the oils and everything that might be left over, get that off of there. And then I'm going to tape off my edges. Like I said, I'm going in over here, going to make a nice straight line. And same on the other side here. Just a nice straight line right off of these natural shapes on here. And then I'll tape it off and I'll start laying some paint down. And we'll see how I do. And go ask somebody who's in a boat yard somewhere, or watch a YouTube video, get some advice from somebody who does boats, and go from there. Because all of us learn something new every day working on boats. It's never the same adventure twice. All right, now, if this was a refit, there's two things that I can mention right off the bat. This little guy right down here, you can see the exposed wood on the sides, which means that that is going to deteriorate now over time. And best thing to do with that is to cut it loose right here. Pull this piece of plywood out and get something that won't deteriorate. Nauticor, Penske boards, anything that would go below a water line and live forever. Because anywhere that you're going to have moisture and potentially water buildup, to spend a few extra dollars to get the right product so that you don't have to replace it again, and so it won't rot. Now, number two right here is this. This is nothing but a piece of painted plywood. I think it's got one little thin layer of glass on it, but I don't know. I think it's just painted plywood. That is such a no-no. Now, I know that some people say, "Oh, well, that's just a cheap old boat, you know, it's a throwaway, whatever." And that's the way our society, our mentality is that, you know, everything after about 3 years, you throw it away and get another one. But if you take the time and put a little effort into a boat, it won't deteriorate. It won't become that, say, "Oh, well, you're going to put more money into that boat than it's worth." Well, I'll put more materials into the boat because money comes from labor, and I plan on doing the labor. I don't plan on hiring out for that. So, yeah, the materials are going to be a little pricey, but once the boat's done, it'll be worth something, and my goal is to help to educate people online that want to try projects like this. If I can do it, you can do it. So, yeah, frog in my boat somewhere, he just heard that water spray, and so he's thinking, "Oh, it's raining." I don't know if you guys heard that or not, but that's kind of funny. But anyway, I'm just sitting here waiting for the water to dry, so it's like waiting for paint to dry, same thing. And I'll get back to you in a moment. All right, down to the next step here. It's pretty well dried out, and now I'm getting ready to wipe it all down with acetone. And a pretty important step, because that'll finish getting any potential residue of grease or whatever from the glass before you paint it. So make sure you don't skip the acetone. Very important step. See? That's why you don't skip the acetone. Anyway, you want to stay pretty consistent with this cleaning. You want to get into your little cracks and crevices and try to get as much of this dirt and sludge off here as you can. The sander does some of it, but it doesn't do all of it. So spend a few extra minutes making sure you get full coverage of your acetone. Don't expect a bunch of big old wide open working spaces, because boats don't have them. You got to learn how to fold. And one of the biggest problems I have, probably the only issue that I have working on boats, is the fact that because of my back being fused with titanium, trying to bend and maneuver into areas is, and that's when I have to break down and go sweet talk my son. Say, boy, get over here and dive in that hole for your daddy. But anyway, that is just about a wrap on the acetone. So now it's all tape. We got to get this thing taped and ready to go, so that we're ready for the next step. All right, now we are on to the mucho important part, and that is going to be the paint. It says vapor warning on this, but it really it has basically zero smell, so maybe those hidden chemicals that they put in there that you don't really smell, they just sneak up on you. But it doesn't really have an odor. Remember the part about watching paint dry? Alright, so we've made it past everything and we are finally on to the paint. Alright, we have now buttoned up this job and I want to show you the finished product. It took 2 coats, and actually there's a little space in the very back that I have no way of getting down in there to get to it, so obviously I'll get that when this is completely hard and dry. I'll come out here tomorrow and just throw a brush up underneath the exhaust from the outdrive and finish up the little back part there. But I think it turned out pretty well. It's going to do its job. It's actually already kind of doing its job. It's holding a little bit of water that's got some kind of discoloration in it, but even though it's moisture in there, it's still allowing the paint to set. So that's an interesting thing going on. Anyway, let Let me show you what I got. Finished product. Here we go. Alright, as you can see, it's now white. And going all the way back. And right back here, right in these areas on both sides underneath the exhaust is where I've got to still get a second coat. But now that this is all done up, there was no way to get my big ass in there without stepping on new paint, trying to get back there to get a second coat. So I can be patient. I can wait until tomorrow and come out here and just touch that little last bit. And good news is I've still got 3/4 of a quart of this bilge paint, so it'll be there for when I get to these jobs in this area and finish up all this area over here. But that's later. But at least I've got it bought and paid for. Now it's ready for an engine to set in there. And if we drop oil or something in there, it will not hide from me, and I'll be able to get it wiped up, cleaned up, and prettied up without worrying about it. If you enjoyed what I showed you here and you like the idea of the new format of the channel, let me know, and make sure you subscribe, because the projects will continue. This is just the beginning. But anyway, tell your friends about me. Hit the thumbs up on the way out the door. And much love to y'all. Stay in the fight.